so these are the 5 indispensable apps that I have used to grow my company from 0 all the way up to over $1 million in revenue in the past 4 years. It's sequencing equals success, right? The order in which you do things will determine the results that you get. If you're baking a cake and you throw the eggs in the oven first, it's not gonna turn out right. And it's the same thing with business. So I wanna walk you through the 5 stages and the 5 indispensable apps at each stage that will help you along the way. So number 1 is about getting your first customers. That's about $0 to $1,000 per month. Number 2 is product innovation, which is about creating something that more people want. In our case, that took us from about 1K per month in revenue to about 20,000 per month in revenue. Number 3, the third stage, is collaboration and delegation, where you bring on other people to help you out with serving your customers. For us, that took us from about $20,000 in revenue to $40,000 in revenue. Number 4 is about the data and decision making that you can use in order to further scale up and make better decisions. And for us, that took us from 40K to $80,000 per month and beyond. And then the 5th step is a little bit of a bonus. It applies during every single step along the way, and that is personal growth. So I'm gonna share with you some places that I've learned all of this information, as well as the apps where that information can be found. So number 1 is get customers. You don't have a business if you don't have customers. For me, I used Facebook, but I'm going to lump all social media platforms into this step. When I first started out the summer of my junior year, I decided that I wanted to start a social media marketing company, and I was going to help local businesses with their social media. What I did when I first started was write out all of these letters to people in the mail. And then I would create videos for them to watch once they open the letters. I dug into the archives a little bit, and you can see right here, these are the videos that I created. Again, this was during my junior summer going into my senior year. You can see July 2018 were all the videos that I created and mailed out. And I didn't get any clients from this, but I pretty much gave them a free strategy session via video. I think the reason was because I didn't have any proof, I didn't have any knowledge about the customer, and these people didn't know me. But then I had an epiphany, like, why not use the people that I already know to try and get my first client? That's when I made a post on Facebook announcing what my plans were going into my senior year. That summer, I was going to dedicate to starting a business around social media, and all of the friends and connections that I already had started reaching out to me on social media, and they were like, hey, I know someone who might be interested in trying out your services. Another chiropractor reached out and was like, hey, let's set something up, maybe a trial period, stuff like that. So really, when you're starting out and don't have any proof about what you're going to offer is working, use those connections that you have already, and you'll be well on your way to moving forward. You can see here that these are the posts I was making just as social proof and to build my brand with the people that already knew who I was, right? So I was just trying to show some evidence of what I had to offer. That's how I got my first client, and then my senior year, I continued to work with that one client that I had, and then I got one other referral from that client who was a friend of his. I made a second post just before my senior year concluded saying, this is what I'm going to do full time, and I got my third client from that post. So my first 3 people that I was working with were all from social media posts, and that was the little bit of proof that I needed that I was on to something that might work, and I could take that next step and give myself 6 months after graduating college. So once I actually started working with those people that I knew, I then took that experience and figured out what their real problems were and built a solution around that. So that's step number 2, is build something people want. And that's like a horrible, I think I missed an N right there, but whatever. That's part of entrepreneurship too, is you just gotta be scrappy and work with what you got, and that's good enough. The only way you can do that is by talking with actual businesses or your actual clients and figuring out what they do actually need. I figured out that the doctors I was working with were typically solo doctors who didn't have staff to follow up with the leads and patients that I was generating through social media and the content that I was putting out there. So what I did was take a skill that I already had. I'd studied computer science in college a little bit. So I applied that knowledge and that skill set to the business that I was creating and ended up building a little chat bot via text message for our clients. And you can see this is a post that I made back in 2019. That was just after I had graduated. We just eclipsed 6,000 messages sent on behalf of our chiropractors, scheduling appointments, answering questions, etc. And what this system did was allow me to solve an actual problem that was in the marketplace. I then took this solution and put it out in ads. And just like that, my ads went from failing in the beginning to I got I think 40 new clients from that one ad that was promoting a solution that I had built. And the only way I would have discovered that solution was by actually working with real people, real clients that I had gotten through social media. The platform that I used for this and the software I used was called Twilio, and this is what businesses use to send out mass communication to their clients. So the advice based on my experience is to build something that people want using your unique skill set, because that's going to differentiate you from other people who might be competing for those same clients. That new development took us from those 3 clients that I had when I graduated all the way up into 40 clients, and that put us at about 20K in revenue. Once we were at that $20,000 per month in revenue mark, then it was time to bring on some help using collaboration and delegation. So what are the tools that we need in order to collaborate and delegate effectively? Number one that I found and I struggled with in the beginning was the mindset. I needed to be willing to allow someone ownership over a certain part of the business and trust that they're going to get it done properly. A quote that's helped me with this from one of my mentors, Dan Martell, is that 80% done by someone else is 100% freaking awesome. So if they can do it 80% as good and care 80% as much as you do, that is good enough, because then that will allow you to spend your time on the things that are going to drive the business forward. And for me, I hit a plateau when I was at $20,000 in revenue. I needed to bring someone on so I could focus on the things that would get us to the next level. So there are 3 tools that we still use today that I brought into the company in order to help out with the delegation side of things. Number 1 was Asana, and that's kind of like the project management tool. It's organized into projects and tasks. So we use this when I first brought on someone to help out with sales. This was just a great way to track where each person was at in the sales process and then stay in sync and communicate about each sale. So this one was Gateway Chiropractic in Crossville, Tennessee. You can see I just gave him maybe some advice, and then Jake, who was our first sales rep, left some notes on this task about how the call went, etc., etc. So this is a great way to organize the different tasks that you have. Another great thing about this tool is the subtasks. It will allow you to create checklists so you can systematize each step of the process. So for example, if we're bringing on someone for Facebook ads, one step of the process is to take the sales call. Then we need to get access to their Facebook page. Then we need to create content. We can add each of those things in the subtasks and track exactly where they are in each step of the process. Asana is a great way to track like tasks and the projects that you're moving through. But if you need a little bit more of a real-time solution for communication, I would recommend Slack. I'm sure you have heard of it at this point. It's like the biggest application for messaging other than like maybe Microsoft Teams, but Slack is huge. As you can see, this was our communication back in March 2020 when I brought Jake on to help out. He was an absolute savage on the phone, and this was just kind of like how he communicated back in the day. Just like getting card numbers, rolling through, you know, making sales, stuff like that. And Jake was focusing on selling while I was focusing on building out different things on the back end of the platform. Finally, the third application I would recommend is Intercom, which is one single place that you can communicate with clients on every single channel, especially for a software application if you're building that. So we have a full, complete history of all of our communication in the past 2 or 3 years with all of our clients inside of Intercom. And what's great about this is when someone new comes on, even today, they can just search inside of Intercom and see all of the past conversations that have happened. And it allows us to bring someone on a lot faster and move that much faster because it's all documented. All the processes are there for that new hire to utilize. So in that collaboration delegation stage, we went from about $20,000 in revenue to $40,000 in revenue, or about $500,000 per year. And at that point, we really stalled because we didn't have anything new. We weren't making great decisions. And that brings us to step number 4, which is the data and decision-making process. Peter Drucker was a management consultant, and he once said that if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. So that's why we built out a few tools in order to help us. And when we were starting, ChatGPT wasn't a thing. I would recommend this honestly to anyone starting out in business. Right from the get-go, you can build anything you want. You can write emails, you can get help, get advice. Really, ChatGPT it's no secret at this point. Like, you need to be on it if you're going to be in business. At this point though, was when we first discovered it, when we were going from the $40,000 mark to the $80,000 mark. It allowed us to delegate the data tasks to someone who didn't necessarily have a computer science background. That was my brother. He was the second person that came on full time to the company. Now he's a co-founder and has large ownership. He loves building out systems and processes. He studied at the University of Chicago, but he did not have a computer science background. So ChatGPT basically allows him to code anything that he wants, even without computer science. Google it if you want to figure out how you can utilize ChatGPT yourself to build stuff. But if you have that systems brain, you can pretty much use ChatGPT to build any application you want. And this allowed Tom, my brother, to go in and work with the data and application in order to make better decisions and systematize all of the processes. So we have automations now built into Asana because of everything that Tom has done that allows us to quickly scale and move at a pace that we wouldn't otherwise be able to do. So the person who does sales for us now, Vince, is able to just sit back and pretty much do what he does best because all of the back end is automated. The applications I'd recommend here are first, obviously, ChatGPT, and then Visual Studio Code. GitHub Copilot is built into Visual Studio. You can also use ChatGPT in order to code inside of Visual Studio as well. But this is a tool that has allowed us to increase and improve our data infrastructure by tying in to the project management tool and creating automations inside of Asana. MySQL is the database that we use, and this is pretty much a compilation of all of the history of every single thing that's happened in the company. So we can look into this and do a breakdown to see who exactly are our best customers. Postman is how we integrate with different platforms. Feed is how our video team is communicating back and forth, and we plug this into the data that's already inside of MySQL. That allows us to dig into exactly what's going on the back end. The reason I say that data and decisions have really taken us from the 40K to the 80K mark is we're able to see, based on the information that we had stored up, that there was a certain customer segment that we had, which is called corrective chiropractic care, a specific type of chiropractor who we were able to help even more than a standard client. When we dug into the numbers that we had stored in MySQL, we were able to see that this client stuck around a lot longer and they were more successful on the platform. So using that information, we were able to increase our prices because the value that we provided these clients were so much higher, and we could communicate on a higher level because we were focusing only on one niche. So if you're stuck at that 40K mark, maybe try to niche down a little bit more, and that's how you're gonna scale to that $1 million mark. It's called the Scaling Credo. I learned it from my business coach, Dan Martell. You can look it up online if you're interested. And yeah, as promised, this is the final one. It applies to every single stage in business, and it is the education and personal growth. Now, there are certain platforms that you can find a lot of information on. YouTube is invaluable. Definitely look at iBooks or Kindle as well for taking in the books medium. But I would also recommend you take courses, online courses that you have to pay for. It just furthers the commitment that you have, and that's been my experience at least. And the courses that have really had the biggest impact on my progression and where I've learned almost all of those things that have gotten us to each stage is, number one, it's Sam Ovens. He's no longer producing courses, but he does have some great content with the Consulting Accelerator as well as Up Level Consulting right here. And you can see it pretty much breaks down how you go from 6 figures per year all the way up to 7 figures and beyond. Each module in here breaks down each step that you need in order to scale further and further, and it just is super detailed. And these 2 courses are the reason I was able to go from 0 to pretty much $40,000 in revenue. The next one that really had a huge impact was Unlimited Leads. This was by Cole Gordon, who is a 8-figure business owner, sales coach. And this course was what I attribute to going from about $500,000 per year all the way up to $1 million and beyond. It led to the epiphany that I realized we needed to further niche down, raise our prices, and deliver more value for our clients. The platform that this is hosted on is called Skool. You can find a ton of different communities and courses on this platform. Also, Kajabi is great if you're looking to learn more about courses and things that you need to scale your business from zero all the way up until $1 million and beyond. You can find a coach for anything. Skool and Kajabi are great if you're looking to learn more information, but another great way that I've found to increase the personal development side of things is to get around a great community. And for me, that has been Dan Martell's Elite Business Coaching Program. It's about 400 to 500 entrepreneurs in this coaching group, and they're all over the spectrum in terms of like where they are in business. But honestly, being around people who are doing a lot higher revenue numbers than you are is the most motivation that I've ever gotten. And being in this group has resulted in the most progression that I've made. If you're interested in Dan Martell, check out his Instagram page. He puts out pretty much everything for free there, and I highly recommend checking him out. Again, it's been a game changer for me. So there you have it. Those are the 5 stages that I've gone through in order to grow from 0 clients all the way up into 7 figures in revenue. Those are the apps that we use on a day-to-day basis still to run our company. And just a reminder, sequencing is key in everything, especially in business. So don't overcomplicate things in the beginning and invest into all of this infrastructure. Hopefully this was helpful, guys. And if you want to see my latest video, click the link somewhere around this page, and I'll see you guys in the next one.